Now you can start, Peter, the introduction.
Go ahead.
All right, so hi everyone. Welcome to DS3's first workshop of the quarter. My name is Tanveer. I'm the machine learning workshops lead here. And we also have Anurag and Takashi. They can also introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Anurag, and I'm also part of the DS3 workshops committee here. And yeah, this is a presentation about marketing and kind of like making your own personal projects.
Yep. And
Hi,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, nothing more to say really. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to cover what's in this workshop like relatively quickly, but we'd also like to leave a decent amount of time at the end for Q&A. So if any of you guys have like any questions about what we just covered, or you guys have specific questions about personal project ideas you guys might have, we will stick around and can, have a healthy discussion about that. So yeah. So through this workshop, we'll be talking about, brainstorming, how you guys go about brainstorming project ideas. We'll talk about some like tips and tricks that we have that we can give you for data science projects, ML projects, or software engineering projects. And then some pointers about, the best way that once you're done with your project, how do you publish it? How do you make it known, and how do you present them well for recruiters and anyone else to see in your profiles? And then at the end, we'll also go through some examples. So the first thing, obviously, before you can even start a personal project is you guys have to have a pretty good idea of what you want to do. And in our opinion, we decided that there are two good methods that you guys can use to come up with ideas. The first one is you guys can identify like either a problem that you guys want to solve, or you guys can maybe find a data set on Kaggle or somewhere else online or a data set you scrape, and you decide you want to analyze it and do some sort of data science work with it. So that's one way. Another way you could do this is also by maybe identifying a technical skill that you guys want to learn more about and actually apply to real world problems. So this can be an example of like, maybe you want to try a new deep learning model, maybe you want to learn a new type of data science package, or you want to learn some sort of new JavaScript framework for building apps. So personal projects are not just a great way of, like adding to your profile, but they're also a great way to develop your own skills. So, and then once you also, identify a skill you want to learn, like try to make sure that the problem that you want to solve is also not something that isn't like too simple, but also something that isn't like too complex, considering that you're also learning while doing. So Anurag, you want to take this slide actually?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, data science projects are something that you will find, pretty easy if you're in data science major. A lot of our classes have you do like we find it more so in your upper divisions that you'll look at a lot of different data sets and do a like project analyzing that data. If you've taken like DS3, you've probably done the Yelp map k-means kind of analysis. So these are like really no different. You're kind of extending those kind of things that you do in class out to either other data sets or even the same data set. I know a friend who actually took his k-mean Yelp project and jazzed it up a little bit and put it on his GitHub, and that's a good personal project in and of itself. So these really do not require a lot of branching out to do. They're very in tune with what you learn about in the lower division series and extend into the upper division series. So the most important parts of these are having good data visualizations. If you guys have used Matplotlib, like that's one of the best ones out there, and just there's a bunch of other good data visualization libraries that are worth a try, on top of also using things like Tableau, which are not really packages, but more so just tools that you can use outside of Python. And most important part of these are to have like good data analyses, so like be concise and consistent with your statistics in your report, and be sure to like not fall prey to some of the misconceptions that you can have with like the way you look at data, make sure you're not making any obvious mistakes, and keep your report as high level as possible so it's easier for recruiters to follow along. There are a lot of recruiters that don't have the same technical knowledge as you would going through the data science like career pathway. So it's best to keep it at the level, at least when you explain it to them, where they can follow along without that stats knowledge. Next. And then Tanveer.
Yeah, I can take this one, sorry. So yeah, then we'll also talk about machine learning projects. So I kind of decided to keep this one kind of separate from data science projects, just because like you might look at like doing about these sort of projects like very separate, very differently from what you would consider a normal data analysis project. So the idea is, you want to develop a model to solve, a problem with relatively good performance. So some of these are some of like tips I have and some pitfalls I've seen with other machine learning projects. So whenever you develop a machine learning project, you should always have something like something to compare your own model to. So for example, if you maybe are doing some sort of like image classification project, like classifying dogs versus cats, right? And you create one good model and talk about your results there, right? You need to put that into those results into perspective. Like no recruiter or no other person reading your report will really understand how good it is unless you actually compare it to maybe other models. So you can either, train multiple models, like train like a baseline model that you can compare your best model to, or maybe even like look at similar things people have done online and compare your model performance to those other machine learning models. So always try to like compare your own model work with other people, so that way you can put into perspective. And then also another thing that's really, really important with machine learning projects is whenever you guys are trying to report your how well your model is doing, you need to really be careful about what kind of metrics you choose, and also make sure that you stay consistent with those metrics, where you only use those metrics for comparing models and you don't mismatch things. So whenever you select metrics, you need to be sure that those metrics are appropriate for the problem you're trying to solve. So if you're trying to do like image classification, things like accuracy, F1 score are really, really good. But then if you're doing something like language modeling, you probably want to use metrics such as blue score, because accuracy won't tell you won't tell you much about the performance of your model in that task. And then also make sure these metrics also account for other types of problems you may encounter in machine learning. So things like class imbalance, for example, where some data sets might have a lot of positive examples and very few negative examples. So your model just learns to output ones, right? And because there's an overwhelming amount of positives in your data set, you might get like 99% accuracy, despite your model only learning to output the same number for every input. So make sure, that if you have these sorts of class imbalance problems, you also appropriately use other metrics such as F1 score. Or if you also need to address overfitting, so make sure you also are, comparing against a test set in your projects. So, you show that off. And then also another thing is, a lot of these machine learning projects are a lot of trial and error. So a lot of them is going to be, you're going to be messing around with different settings in your model and tweaking things around and see if you can get anything better. So whenever you're doing this, right, try to keep yourself organized and record all the different things about the experiments you run. So whenever you train a model, make sure you record, what kind of things did you change about the model, and then also, what were the results of those changes. So because when you do this, your report at the end after you actually finish your project will be a lot easier to write. So yeah. And then Takashi, you can take this one.
Yeah. So okay. So software engineering projects, on the other hand, is slightly different from data science and machine learning in general, because data science and machine learning projects are solely you're dealing with data, but here it's a lot more open, and you could do so many things. And some of the things you could do is like build website, like web app, or you could build like an iOS app or like Android app, or you could make like Amazon Echo app or whatever. Like it could be anything, right? As long as you use API and stuff. And and you could start with Python if you're familiar with it. Probably most of you from data science majors, so like you could do a lot with Python. Like you can make a website with Flask or Django, and there are some other things. Personally, I think the most important aspect of software engineer project is to have an idea and try to stick with it and do try to finish as much as possible. These are the two aspects. Like as soon as you have an idea and decide like have like enough commitment, you will make it through. Like technically you might find it hard, but as long as you like committed on that, then you can get through it, right? And from my personal experience, I really like hackathons because hackathon gives you 24 hours time limit or 40, like it depends, but usually 24 hours. And you just dedicate your weekend to that whole, like only one thing. So like usually when you try to do a personal project, like you have like classwork or like part-time job or whatever, and like you get busy. So it's really easy to like get distracted. But when you go to hackathon, you're only doing hackathon. So it's easier for you to focus on one thing and try to finish it, try to finish something in 24 hours. And that way you can get started with something and then like make decent progress. And I put it here. So SD Hack is coming and Anurag is actually director, right? I think. Yeah, so
Right.
so you can reach out to him.
I can expand on that in the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so hackathon basically usually has tutorials for beginners, so you can learn a lot just by going there. Like there are a lot of beginners and you can learn a lot. And also there are like teammates mixer, which allows you to meet new teammates even if you don't have group to start with. And yeah, so I really recommend going to hackathons. ISC Hack is one of them, but you could go any of the hackathons from and right now most of them are online, so you can just sit there on the weekend, and then like if you have friends who want to do that together, you can talk to them and do it on the weekend or something. Okay, next slide please.
Yeah, I can take this one. So speaking a little further on hackathons, yeah, so like Takashi said, I'm the director for SD Hacks this year, and applications are closing on January 25th. So I just want to say, if you guys are interested, please do apply. We always like having more applicants. Yeah, but they're a great place to create like really open-ended projects, and you know, sometimes it's also more specific because we have hackathon tracks. So like these are things, at least in SD Hacks, we have a remote education hack and a sustainability hack, right? And in other hackathons, you'll have like civic responsibility. So like hacks that can help people make better, voting decisions and stuff like that. So in some ways it can be extremely specific if you want that, but it also has some general like themes that you can pick and work on. Like sometimes you don't even know if you want to work on something sustainability related until you realize there's a avenue for you to work on that. And hackathons are one of the best ways to do this. We have workshops from industry like specialists in cloud computing, venture capitalist work, if that's something you're interested in, more ML related and like data oriented jobs. So I think like hackathons are all in all a great, really atomized and self-contained experience for you to expand on all of your existing skill sets, and also learn a lot more just about the industry in this very special kind of environment that you only get a chance to experience while you're in college. So I would really recommend going to a hackathon. And also the other really good thing about hackathons is they give you a chance to write dev post articles. So usually when you're making a project for a hackathon and submitting it, all of the online ones that I've been to require you to write a dev post article when you make your submission. And these are really nice because usually you're trying to write your dev post articles not to people who are in your domain or to, specifically coders, but more so just to the general public so they can see the work that you've done.
And they're really useful because if you put them on your resume, it gives people who aren't very into the nitty-gritty low-level stuff to get a very general idea of what you worked on in this project. And like Takashi said, you can always expand these dev post articles and these projects as you exit the hackathon to become something much more than like whatever you can make over a 3-day or 2-day span. So yeah, sign up for SD Hacks and just any MLH hackathon whenever you get the chance.
Yep. And then we're also talking about a little bit about how you guys should also go about, publishing your projects. So obviously it's great that you guys have made, like, let's say you've gotten to the point and you guys have created a well-functioning personal project, right? That shouldn't be the end of it. You guys should definitely look into publishing it so that you guys can take full advantage of the work you just did. So to better add to your profile. So I would say that the bare minimum for any personal project should be you guys should create a well-structured, well-organized GitHub repo and add a README that kind of tells a little bit about the work you did. Obviously, that's great, but and then also if you're working in data science or machine learning, consider also creating an annotated Jupyter notebook with Markdown that kind of like explains what different code does, and also maybe even like talk about like the results of different cells. That adds some good detail to that as well. Another thing you guys could also maybe try is writing a whole blog or report and then publishing it to sites such as like your own personal website, Medium, Reddit, something like that. So that also kind of like gives your project some more visibility. And last but not least, but like some of the best like personal projects that I've ever seen have had like interactive demos that they host online. They basically create like some sort of front end, basically. Like let's say you're working on a machine learning project, right? Like somebody like actually deploys their image recognition model to a website so that way people can upload their own images and then the model can run at it. So I would say when a recruiter looks at your profile, when a recruiter looks at these projects, right? It's one thing for the recruiter to be able to look through a report and see like how well your model did. But it's another thing, I'd say, for a recruiter to be able to go to a website and then like firsthand see like how your model's performing on data that maybe they give it themselves, right? You basically develop a much more tangible product. And I think that definitely looks a lot more impressive. But keep in mind, like creating that sort of like interactive demo can be pretty hard, or at least a substantial more amount of work. And then last but not least, oh yeah, go ahead.
We got like a question from Eric that says, any tips for project README? And you might want to answer that.
Oh yeah. So I mean, obviously at the bare minimum, just like give a brief summary about the project. You can even also maybe depending on what kind of project you have, maybe kind of just document the entire thing, right? Talk about what different files you use. If you maybe created some sort of like open source library, you also provide documentation for anyone else who wants to use it. Or you can also maybe just write a report in the README. Honestly, it's kind of up to you. The README just kind of has to serve a purpose, It has to basically be able to at least tell a viewer what the project is and maybe any extra information that you want someone to know. But yeah, last but not least, also like take full advantage of whatever project you make and make sure you share it around social media. Like LinkedIn, Reddit, or Medium are all great places to be able to share that kind of work. And yeah, so we have a couple of also some example projects we'll also go through. So what's it called? First one we have here is one of my personal projects I did with Ayush, the events director at DS3. So we basically did this for Data Hacks, which was last year in April. So, oh no, March, sorry, February. And we were basically given a data set of chronic illness survey questions. And we applied some like natural language processing and machine learning techniques to visualize data set and also classify different questions and based on like what kind of chronic illness categories they belong to. And then we also conducted hypothesis tests to analyze like the effectiveness of youth tobacco laws to basically like prevent youth tobacco use. And then one of the things that definitely set us apart from a lot of other projects was that we created interactive dashboards to showcase our results. So I kind of show you guys really quickly, like this basically write-up I created on my own personal website. So basically I kind of published our report that we wrote for the project here. I would say that one of the criticisms that we got of our report from the judges was that we kind of were a little too detailed in our report, right? One of the tips we gave earlier in this workshop was that we should try to keep our reports as high level as possible, so that way people with less of a background can understand it. For our report, we were criticized for maybe having it a little too detailed, like we did kind of included like too much information. So our report was not as easy to follow along as others. But one of the things that definitely set us apart from other people was that we actually had these like interactive Tableau dashboards. So for example, we had these word clouds here where people could see what kind of keywords belong to different categories of chronic illnesses, which was pretty useful. And then we also did some machine learning work where we wanted to basically visualize like these survey questions in two-dimensional space. So when we did that, we all then created this interactive Tableau dashboard that would showcase how well our results were able to do, how we all were able to do that. So you can kind of hover over points and see like which question each point corresponds to. You can see that our methods were able to kind of separate different categories of points decently well. Like similar questions are basically clustered together. So this kind of like basically showcased how well our machine learning methods worked without just basically talking about pure statistics and metrics. So having that sort of like tangible visualization was definitely a plus. And then another thing that I also included here was this is an example of someone basically deploying a machine learning model to a web app. So this was created by Google, where the idea of this was you kind of just like draw little doodles and the machine learning model at the bottom will classify what it is. I don't really know how to draw an ant, but I will try. It sees circles at the bottom there. There we go. So it basically like it's all done on the web and it classifies like what I was just drawing there. So I thought that was a pretty cool little demo. You guys can try that on your own as well. And then Takashi, you wanted to talk about Share as well?
Yes. So I've been making this app, and it's basically a platform to create and share augmented reality objects from mobile apps. And so actually, I started this as a hackathon project back in October. And so again, I really recommend going to hackathons because it's great. But basically, like so I really enjoy working on this because I think it's interesting to work on the augmented reality stuff, and I just wanted to put the links there because for the marketing purposes. And if you guys are more interested, please download the app. It was just published recently, so it's on iOS App Store, and you can yeah, that's our website. And if you have iPhone, you can download it, and basically it allows you to create like whatever object you want to make. It's like Lego or Minecraft, and yeah, and actually we are also looking for people, and we're part of basement startup incubator thing, and if you guys are willing to work hard, please reach out to me, and maybe we can talk about like how we can get to going. That's it for me.
So that's pretty much it for us from content. But if you guys maybe have any questions about like, your own personal project ideas or anything that we may have left unclear from what we just talked about, like we can stick around. I know, so for example, with me, I'm pretty experienced in like natural language processing and machine learning. So if you guys have any specific questions about that, I can help out. And Takashi and Anurag also have their own expertise they can add to.
Yeah, ask us any question.
Hey, Tanveer.
Yep. What's up, Aiden?
So I took a 151B last quarter for deep learning, and it was pretty fun. I mean, it was hard, but
I was in that class too. It was real rough.
Yeah, did you take it last quarter? Or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
Yeah,
What was a
me and Tanveer were in the same class.
Yeah. Anyways, so I'm trying to figure out like how to kind of start creating some projects. I really don't have many. I actually have I have no projects on my resume, which is like really frustrating. And I'm a third year but I'm in the math department, but I want to do data science type stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out when I'm working on like a little thing with like the Stanford dogs data set, just to kind of classify dogs. Like, do you think that deep learning like findings, if it's like really low accuracy, like, so for example, if there's not a lot of data, it's like a 25% like classification task, like is that still like useful to show people? And like, I don't know, like,
I mean, I think one of the things I talked about earlier, right, was that you should always like metrics, like if you just post like one metric from one model, it literally means nothing, like honestly. Like you kind of just have to put that metric into perspective. So the Stanford dog data set, like how many classes are you dealing with, for example?
120 classes, and there's only like 150 images for each class. So
yeah. So like random guessing, right, with like that many classes is like almost like maybe less than 1% accurate, right?
Okay, yeah. So I got to put that into.
Yeah, you can kind of put that into perspective, right? 25% accuracy with that many classes might not actually be that bad if you like put into perspective. Maybe also, I'm considering this, since I'm also probably considering that this data set's from Stanford. There's probably also a lot of other models on the internet that people have created, right? So if you maybe look up like other papers that people have published doing work on that data set, like you can kind of also get an idea of what kind of performance is good or acceptable.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend that.
How do you guys like kind of figure out what like the topic of your project's gonna be? Like, so like, for example, I'm also interested in like, I want to do data science stuff more for like climate change and like like oceanography and like that sort of thing. And I'm trying to figure out like what would be a good place to start, like, to either implement machine learning or just do data visualization or something. So like kind of lost it, like where to start.
If you are looking for oceanography or climate science, we actually have a workshop coming up a few weeks later. It will be hosted by Blake Wakowiak, who's a oceanography major, and he's done a bunch of research and personal project on this area with data science. So you can keep in mind of that.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, another thing I'd also recommend is just like at least just like start looking for data sets in that kind of area or realm. Like look at things like Kaggle, or even look at Medium maybe. See if you can find any data sets in that realm, and see if and start looking through like the columns they have, and see if you can find anything, any like machine learning tasks or things you could do with it.
Actually, I think like speaking of Kaggle, I think Kaggle is a great place to start. If you don't know Kaggle, it's basically a competition platform where you can like find data set, and then often there are like a lot of people like trying to improve their machine learning models on like certain tasks, and it gives you like sort of like framework of like what to do, right? Like everyone's trying to work on the same thing. So I guess like you could at least participate, and then even though if you don't get like much progress, like you can still write report about it, and that way you can get started, and also you have other people working on the same project problem. So I think it's a really good place to start.
Is there a way to like leverage your Kaggle like projects to recruiters? Like, do you just kind of like say like, check out my Kaggle profile? Like, should you put it in your GitHub? Like,
I've actually talked to recruiters about this. Yeah. Like recruiters have really like when I ask a recruiter, like for my first year, like what are some things as a data science major I should be doing to, but put myself in a better position, they always keep saying Kaggle competitions. So like when you talk about a Kaggle competition or a Kaggle data set that you worked on, basically just put that on your resume as a personal project. You don't have to share like your Kaggle profile. I mean, you could obviously but it's probably better to, instead of just posting your profile, literally just talk about the work you did as a personal project in that like project section of your resume.
Okay.
So that's the way at least I do it.
Yeah, and then definitely have lots of bullet points on that, and put it on GitHub as well. Probably have a definitely a well written README, so they wouldn't have to go to code level. They can just read your scope of your project and then what's the conclusion, what the outcome is, and how that fits your goal. So yeah.
Cool.
Any more questions?
I mean, if you guys are gonna still be here and nobody has any other questions, I'll keep asking questions. So
Yeah, man, go. Yeah, you're actually the only one.
yeah. Well,
We're all
so
yours.
like I said, I don't really have like any projects aside from that the dog classification that I started. So applying for internships right now is like kind of weird, like because I feel like I don't have, like I've taken all these classes and I'm now in 152A for computer vision, but I'm like, I can't post my projects from those classes, like whatever, publicly on my GitHub. So like, do I just try to maybe take one project at a time, like, and try to do some small projects and then maybe like have like a bigger project I work on, or like how should I like approach trying to get an internship this summer? Because I feel like I'm getting stressed because I'm like, feel like I'm behind, like it's already January and I don't know, I haven't really done much. So I'm just kind of like getting like, what do I do? So I'm just curious if any of you guys have advice. Or
I guess take a step back. What internships are you looking at right now?
Honestly, just anything I can find. I mean, because I don't have a great like resume necessarily. Like I don't have a ton of projects and clubs and all these sorts of things. So honestly, anything machine learning would be great because of the classes I've taken. So that's why I'm trying to do machine learning type projects. Like I don't really want to do software engineering type internships. I'm not really interested in like being a software engineer and that sort of thing. So I'm a statistics major. So I'm trying to like also maybe do like whatever data science, like statistics, like data analysts, like machine learning, that sort of realm.
Right.
But I'm also trying to maybe, instead of getting an internship, just do research with somebody, like trying to find a professor who I'm interested in doing the research. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now, I guess. That's better explanation of where I'm at. So
I see. And one thing also to keep in mind is like even a lot of software engineering internship positions, like we'll let you do like machine learning AI type work.
Okay.
So also don't shy away from that. Even like, I know I'm also not that interested in becoming a full-on software engineer, right? But I really also want to do machine learning work. So, but most of the roles I've been applying to have been software engineering roles.
Okay.
So that's one thing to keep in mind. But as for your question about projects, I mean, honestly, I've done a lot of like small little projects, like to just for myself to learn like along the way, right? But
yeah,
I would say there's many of them I definitely have not published because they're really, really small. But that isn't to say they aren't useful. Like if you're ever like learning a new skill, right, and really quickly want to apply it, just take some data set maybe you've used before and like try it out and see if it works. But
Okay.
that doesn't necessarily have to be something you publish. You can do just for your own personal learning. And then you can obviously like if you feel qualified enough, then you can take that a step further and publish that skill to your resume. Not necessarily a project if it's like not that big. But I would say like the most ideal thing you could probably do is like create like one really, really good solid project with like some sort of interactive front end, right? Those are like definitely the projects that I've seen that have like done the best with recruiters. So I will definitely look into that. Maybe like creating a machine learning model, then literally basically working with like full stack machine learning, which is like you can do everything from training the model to all the way to deploying it to like an actual product. That shows a lot of different skills basically if you could deliver an entire product like that.
Yeah. What is like so like after you make like say like a deep learning model or something like that, like what is after you use it on the data set, what would be a good way to like, I don't know, get to like the next, like, so you've done it on the data set, you've gotten like whatever accuracy, you've tested a baseline, tested some other models, like you've kind of figured it out. After that, what do you think, like, so like the last part of that full stack, like what would that be? Like, would you take some random images of some dog breeds and like throw them in there and try to have it classify it? Like, how would you?
I mean, in the context that I was talking about, like when people say full stack machine learning engineering, they
Yeah.
typically are talking about like actually then deploying it to some sort of use case, right?
Okay.
So like deploying it to like if you maybe create an image classification model, right? You then make a website with your model where people can then upload images and your model runs on it, right?
And it like predicts it or whatever. But yeah,
Exactly.
like the top 5 error or something like that, or top these 5 guesses or something like that.
Exactly, something like that.
Right.
But obviously that's definitely like a big extra. Like I know that deploying it is like a pretty big step to take. So like a lot of my projects have just stopped before I even deployed it. Like you can kind of just like create some good visualizations to show off like how well your model's performing, things like confusion matrices or like training graphs to show how your model trains and all that sort of stuff. Even just doing that stuff is also pretty good enough.
Okay.
Also, Aiden, I think something you can get quickly up to speed to find an internship is probably, definitely go to Anurag's SD Hacks. That will be really helpful. Find some teammates from your 152 class or whatever class or whatever friends you got, that, have some common interests, for example, the oceanography or, environment data. Come up together and then, 3 people or more people, the merrier. Maybe not like 12 a dozen, but have some people gather around, brainstorm ideas and find one common interest that that everyone can work together. Because sometimes me, if I do a project by myself, I get like I get really tired and sometimes I would want to give up. But if you have some other people with you, you probably wouldn't give up so easily because you have a team and everyone has ideas to improve this.
Yeah.
But
What are the team sizes for SDX?
4 people, and like I said, we do have a sustainability track, so I feel like your interest in oceanography and eco conservation would be really well suited for that. I think it would be a great opportunity for you to pursue those interests and also build a project.
Is there a way to find like teammates? Because I pretty much like don't I don't have many like friends in data science, computer science, like at UCSD. Like all my friends are other majors, so like I'm very
totally. So in terms of making like finding partners for your group at SD Hacks, there's a lot of people who go into the event without having a team and find their partner at a mixer event that we host at the beginning. So I would say if you're just interested in participating in the event, but you don't have a team to participate with, I would say like don't let that hold you back from applying to the event. Yeah.
Sweet. Sounds good.
Right.
But everything I got. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to say?
Let's see. Let me take a look at one when the oceanography presentation is.
Yeah. Also, do you want to stop the recording? Also.
Oh yeah.